I was trying to teach her Hakmanish Kachainik.
Okay.
Don't rattle me a kettle.
Oh yeah.
You know what it means? It
It's
comes when you put the kettle up with water to boil. When it boils, the top of the kettle rattles.
Uh-huh.
So Hakmanish Kachainik, it is stop bugging me with stupid small talk. And the interesting thing is that in Dutch this now stop met ouwe hoeren. Don't stop old whoring.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I know that word. Why old whoring? That's annoying? Old whoring is annoying behavior?
Well, it's about the old queen that they said that. When we got the decoration for the Normandy invasion from the old queen, we called it the old whore cross.
This is before Beatrix.
It was some kind of a medal. It was the old whore cross.
They didn't like the queen. Is this why?
The
populace didn't like that queen? What was her name?
It's Wilhelmina.
Oh. Was she very Victorian?
Yes. But she was a powerful dame, and she took the government to London during the war.
Oh. Right.
Unlike the Belgian King Albert. By the time I think he died, his son Leopold had become king. Leopold had a very beautiful and powerful wife, Astrid, Princess Astrid. And he stayed in Brussels and basically collaborated with the Germans.
And what about his wife?
His wife apparently was anti-Nazi. She was Swedish.
So he collaborated, but she did not?
No, what he figured that collaborating will protect his people more. And actually, the Belgians got treated much better than the Dutch.
Oh, so it was effective. It was effective in his point of view.
No, it was also that Holland had the military, German military control, while Belgium was civilian.
Why on earth would Holland have the military control? Why did Holland have military control? Oh, because it was coastal.
You know, a lot of these things are accidental.
Yeah?
Belgium lost about 50% of its Jews. Holland, 78%.
Wow.
The Flemish nationalists, the Flamiganten in Belgium, became a Nazi-like organization. But about 30,000 Dutch Nazis joined the SS and fought on the Eastern Front.
That's a lot for a little country.
The Dutch Nazi Party, the NSB, was powerful.
Wow. So, did you not know about this until much later? You didn't know about the NSB until much later?
Well, the practical actions of the NSB increased in in force during the war, understand? And
You were aware of them during the war?
I wasn't there.
You were fighting there.
I was in Palestine.
When did you come back? Oh, you're talking about after the... I don't understand.
I came back to Holland in September 1944 with the army. And we really didn't know what was going on. The Jewish leadership knew about the Holocaust, but we didn't.
Mork.
Hmm?
Mork. Mork. Down. Get down. He jumps on the counter and he looks and sees if the spray bottle could actually reach him from that far away. If it can't, sometimes he doesn't get down.
My first confrontation with the Holocaust was during the visit to Antwerp in October 44. You know that chapter.
Mm-hmm.
When we discovered the Gurfine family
Yeah.
hidden behind the mirror.
Yeah.
And they had been out of touch with anybody. We were the first Jews that they saw.
Yeah.
And I was very hesitant to ask him, but I had to, so I asked him, is anyone left? And Jacob, the oldest son, looks at me and says, you are left.
Yeah.
And that is the phrase that really penetrated to me. That
Imagine.
when I decided to leave, we lived in Antwerp then, in September 43. No, September 39, to leave for Palestine. It was, without knowing it, the smartest move I've ever made.
No kidding. And when did your parents get, when did your family get out?
The day the Germans invaded,
Which was,
May 10, 1940.
wow. They'd already planned it. They had,
already knew, yeah.
yeah, they'd already planned it?
No,
No? It was spontaneous?
it was one of the few decisive moments in my father's life. He and some other all diamond people, acquaintances and friends, bought a bus. You know that story, do you?
But they bought the bus.
They bought the bus
That day, they decided to get the bus.
that day.
Wow.
They bought a bus and they fled to the Belgian coast.
Incredible.
And after that, they went to the French coast, to Bordeaux, in southwestern France. And then all these families settled in a place called WWII, south of Bordeaux, thinking the Germans would never go that far. And then they went all the way to the Spanish border. They took that bus and they swerved around the south of France for a number of weeks
Living in the bus.
in the bus. Well, living in haystacks and places like that. And then Adas, my 16-year-old cousin, steered the bus over small trails over the Pyrenees into Spain.
Wow. Wow.
And they came to,
Why did they let the 16-year-old drive that part?
he was the only driver.
He was the only driver?
In Belgium, there was no age limit, there was no speed limit. And so a teenager who could drive, They all were wild drivers.
They always are.
They came to Madrid and they went to the American consulate. And since they were Dutch citizens, they could go to Curacao.
Oh.
And to go to Curacao, they had to take a boat from Lisbon in Portugal and go to New York, and then from there to Curacao. And when
What?
they came to New York...
Go
they
to
went-
New York.
Huh?
I didn't. Wow.
You didn't know that?
That they had to go to New York to get to Curacao.
Yeah.
Why?
Shipping was all in service of the military effort.
I see.
They caught the last boat from Lisbon to New York. And once they were there, they were they had gotten a transit visa from the Americans. And they go to New York, they had to go for one overnight to Canada and then come back. And they were given residency. They were legal immigrants because Dutch quota was very empty.
Imagine.
And my mother's sister, Hella, a true bitch. She, in her family, they went to Brazil. Are you recording this?
Uh-huh.
They went to Brazil and they came to America a number of years later. And she,
Why did they go to Brazil? This is your Hella. This
there
is
wasn't much choice.
wait. Your mother's sister were Manya and Hella?
My mother's sister, who was with him, was Hella, and Adas was her son, and she had a daughter, Wanda. I don't know if she's still alive, but Wanda was my first love. I was 13 years old, and they lived in an apartment below us on the Helena in Antwerp, and she came up there. And we were sitting on what's called the chauffage, which was the central heating of the building. It was kind of a contemporary building. And she said, and she put her head on my shoulder and she had a perfume. And I went to school next day, I was wearing a sweater, and I kept on smelling her perfume.
It was intoxicating.
And actually it's my sister Miriam who fucked up that relationship.
And
she
you've
was
never forgiven
3
her.
years younger. She's sitting there saying, hey, look, they're making out, look at them making out, etc.
Well, sure, she's your sister.
Hmm?
She was your sister. She's supposed to fuck up everything.
Yeah.
That was her job. Was to
Anyway,
tattle on you.
Wanda married a strange kind of character.
Please tell me the Brazil story. How did they end up in Brazil?
The choice for Jews escaping from Europe who had no nationality.
So they were not on the bus.
They were stateless.
They were not on the bus.
Oh yes, they were on the bus.
And why didn't they go to Curacao like you?
They were not
Or
Dutch,
like your family.
They were not Dutch citizens.
Oh, they were Belgian.
They were stateless.
Wait, they were Belgian?
They basically were Polish, but the Poles
Oh, I see.
wouldn't give Jews passport.
Okay.
So they got what is called a Nansen passport. Nansen was from the League of Nations papers, identity papers. But they were stateless passports. They
Yeah.
didn't have any nationality.
Yeah,
So
like the Palestinians.
I don't know what they bribed themselves that they could go to Brazil. A number of them went to Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And there are thousands of stories.
Yeah.
And years later, Wanda got married and she had some children. She was very pretty.
They stayed in Brazil or no?
They stayed in Brazil, but they came to America
Okay.
3-4 years later. I don't know exactly the details.
Yeah.
But anyway, Wanda lived in Connecticut, and she was, I guess, in her 60s then. And I went to see her, and from this pretty girl she had developed the face of a sea captain with a bulbous red nose.
Perhaps you weren't as pretty either.
Like my mother's friend, Bala Ehrenfeld, who was married to my father's partner, but left for Palestine during the Depression, and left my father with all, there's a partnership, left my father with all the debts.
Yeah.
He washed his hand of it. My father paid his debts off it over the years.
Wow. Is that the worming medicine?
This is flea and worm. It does a roundworm and fleas.
Oh, that's a different worm, I
It's
think.
not the big stuff. I
Okay.
haven't ground it up yet. I have to grind it up and mix it in with something.
Yeah,
And
we
I
have.
guess inject it down their throat.
Yeah, we have to get the dosage right. I'll
My
look at it after.
grandparents, when the depression broke out, had moved to Palestine. And my grandfather opened a factory for floor tiles in Jaffa, which is an Arab city. And in 1936, the Arab rebellion broke out, like the first Intifada, it wasn't called that way. The first place, Jewish place that was destroyed, was this factory. They burned it.
Oh.
So, the grandparents, we lived in Antwerp at the time, they came and they lived with us. And my mother hated her mother-in-law, my father's mother, who was in a kind of a Jewish controlling person, but she could never say anything because my father was just devoted to his mother. And if the choice would have had to be made between his mother and his wife, he would have chosen his mother. So she was careful.
Okay, your grandparents moved to Palestine what year?
We moved to Palestine in 1931 or 32, I think.
So early, okay.
They came back to Antwerp in 36.
Why?
Hmm?
What a terrible time to come back to Antwerp.
The livelihood had been destroyed in Palestine,
Wow.
and the depression hit Palestine that time.
Oh.
Before that, it was sort of prosperous,
Uh-huh.
relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And they lived with my parents all through the war. My grandfather became a broker in the Diamond Club, a diamond broker. And my father was a terrible sizzler as far as the commissions of brokers were concerned. They were entitled to 2 or 3% on a sale. And my father sizzled them down to 1% every time.
Wow.
And my grandfather said to him one day, "Max, please don't treat me as a son, treat me as a regular broker." He had a number of famous expressions that remained from him. And so in 1936, after the war, he already had at least one stroke. They moved back to Palestine. And they went into the diamond business.
Which year?
1946, after the war. And together with Pino Hollander, who had married Frida, so he was a married uncle of mine,
Mm-hmm.
he and my grandfather established the firm Hollander Lipschutz.
I see.
And they eventually became an important exporting firm. But my grandfather died in 1949, after 5 strokes.
Mm.
He was 73, I think.
Wow.
When he was on his deathbed, by pure willpower, he stayed alive till my father, his oldest son, came so he could bless him.
He was a religious man.
My grandfather?
Yes.
My grandfather was a respected religious figure in the Jewish community, but he wasn't really. I knew that because I was his favorite grandchild. And he was a wild character. He was full of adventure, you know. He had girlfriends.
Well, that just makes him a hypocrite, but that doesn't mean he didn't.
No, he wasn't a hypocrite. He was not a hypocrite. You know, everybody knew Chaim Shimon was a wild man. And today, in 1949, he died. And his reputation among the surviving people who knew him, and even the ones generation after, is still, Chaim Shimon. And I had an interview with Teemans, who was his banker in Holland, as long as he lived in Scheveningen. And I said to Teemans, Mr. Teemans, would you have a... Teemans was in his 80s. And you're running out of...
No.
Would you have some time with me? Because I'd like to find out. He says, a grandson of Chaim Shimon? Anytime. And Teemans eventually, in his 80s, became the director of the American commercial bank who served the diamond trade in his 80s.
Wow.
And my grandmother was a very spoiled woman, but she was very devout. She really was religious in every way. She sat every afternoon reading Proverbs. It's like she was praying. She didn't know what she was saying, but she was sitting there, and she kept the rituals clean. And always the Seder at the grandparents in Holland was a big affair that lasted from about 8 o'clock in the evening till 2 in the morning.
8? So late.
And you know,
What lasted that long?
Pesach,
Oh.
the meal.
Oh yeah, the Friday night meal.
No,
Right.
Passover.
Oh,
And-
Passover did?
you know, my
Friday
grandfather,
night was like that too, or Shabbat. I mean,
Well, what time did the Shabbos meal end?
the Shabbos meal,
Yeah.
that the Shabbos meal was started after shul at about noon
Huh.
and lasted till 3 o'clock.
Oh, I thought till 3 o'clock?
Huh.
Yeah. Not
Wow.
in the morning, 3
Yeah,
o'clock
3
in
in
the
the
afternoon.
morning.
No, 3 in
You
the
know-
afternoon.
Oh.
You know the chap at the grandfather's house.
Yeah, Lindy was asking what time the Shabbos meal started. It was early.
It was a big affair, everybody came.
So these steaks-
And all the family lived within a few blocks.
And
Well,
you
after sunset.
and you spent the night, right?
And we spent the night,
Liddy, that's going to be wonderful on the video.
at Pesach we spent the night. And in
Yeah.
the morning,
Oh, okay.
for breakfast we got bubbles.
Only Pesach you stayed
Pesach we
overnight.
spent the night.
I didn't understand
All
that.
the grandchildren spent the night.
Yeah.
They had 24 rooms there.
Right, they had that
Have you
whole
been in
building.
that house?
Yeah, remember we visited.
Oh yeah.
But those people only lived in part of it?
They were Indonesians.
No, they were Indian.
No, Indonesians. They weren't Indian.
They were not Indonesian. They were not.
They were Indian.
Yeah, they were definitely.
Whatever. In any case, they had a a Dutch son-in-law from Alkmaar, and he introduced himself. He says,
Yeah.
"Ik ben van de verkeerde kant. I'm from the wrong side," because he stuck out this white Dutch gringo in that esoteric family. Ik ben van de verkeerde kant, he said.
A gringo.
You know certain expressions that remain with you because they're so unexpected. They stand out like warts.
Yeah. Hey, you know,
Like Charlie Nickel when what was his name? This diamond dealer living in Dallas who was very close to him, who stayed at his home in Port Arthur and wore his clothes, etc., and his underwear, and forgot his shirts with diamonds in there.
Why?
And he died in a crash of a plane going from Houston to Dallas.
Good thing you didn't have to pay all that debt.
Anyway, in the morning, Charlie called his wife to offer his condolences. And she didn't come to the phone, but a friend came. And he said to his wife's name was Ruth, "Tell Ruth that we were very disappointed." That's the condolence. It was one of the...
So I'm waiting for
Huh?
I'm waiting for a positive female character in one of these stories.
Well, my grandfather had a girlfriend in Brussels
There you go.
who was the daughter of my mother's, of a second cousin, I think, who had bad breath. That's what I remember about him.
Wait, who had bad breath?
That cousin,
The cousin.
yeah.
Wait. How was? Tell me how the cousin was related again.
It was a second cousin, I think.
Okay. How was he related to the girlfriend?
He was the father.
I see.
He was the father. And every 2 weeks, my grandfather, both of them worked in Amsterdam at the diamond bourse.
Your father,
My father
and
and my
grandfather.
grandfather. But every 2 weeks, both of them would travel to Antwerp because the Dutch had started enforcing the strict tax laws and the Belgians were very casual about it.
They
So
were.
that caused the diamond trade to gravitate to Antwerp.
Uh-huh.
So my grandfather would every 2 weeks travel to Antwerp and then spend the night with a girlfriend in Brussels, just 20 miles away. And they had a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And when the daughter got to be 19, 20 years old, she was going to get married. And by that time, my grandmother had discovered this relationship. She started traveling with my grandfather to Antwerp. And when the girl was about to get married, it was my grandmother who saw to it that she got a dowry.
Wow. So this story still revolves around men. Are there any female characters who are respected in these stories in their own right?
Pepka was very respected.
Okay, let's talk about Pepka.
Pepka was very respected. Let me see. Of the girls, Frida was very prim.
What does that mean?
Prim, like Victorian.
Okay.
She was the only of the girls who was not promiscuous. The girls were all like they were trying to make up for 2,000 years of repression. Like Mathilde was big and horny, and my father, being the oldest one, kind of watched them, and he used to find Tilly in the woods, the Nieuwe Scheveningse bosjes, with some kind of a lover.
How many siblings were there?
How many girls?
How many siblings?
They were all together 7.
Wow.
3 brothers and 4 sisters. Let's see, the brothers were my father, Jeff, Charles, and Bram. That's 4 men.
Oh.
So and the girls were Tilly, Mathilde. You used to stay at her. Remember anything of that?
Oh yeah, I remember Tilly. I don't remember Mathilde at all.
You remember Tilly and Paukie and Frida.
Uh-huh.
Those were the girls.
I remember Frida.
And Paukie, on the 75th birthday, Johnji and I were there, and I asked Paukie, how many lovers have you had? Me? Lovers? And then Bearish never knew about them.
But you couldn't answer the question.
Well, Paukie was hungered for by, she was so sexy and so beautiful. And when Maxi and I left,
I turned the fan off because the light would be too disturbing.
What line?
It would cause the light to flicker.
when Maxi and I left with the Dutch military for England, we assembled at the Tel Aviv Central bus station. And of all the family, Paukie was the only one who came. And when she said goodbye, she gave both of us a French kiss.
Oh my God.
You know that story.
Yeah.
And years later I asked her, tell me, why did you do that? He says, I had to give you two poor young men who were going to war. I had to leave you with some kind of gift.
Interesting. Anti-Victorian.
Huh?
Anti-Victorian.
Frida couldn't stand me
Why?
because I disturbed her peace. I was the kind of the troublemaker among grandchildren. When I came to the grandparents' house, there was always a following of children after me. We made what's called Haman. And Frida went to the university and she played the piano. She considered herself an intellectual. And none of the others were. Jeff had been an actor. He looked like Arthur Rubinstein. And he acted in plays in German and in Dutch and in Yiddish. He was a good actor.
I remember Jeff.
Pepka was held in high esteem. And she, you know, I came from America and everybody, cousins and Pepka so, would ask me to go out for lunch over them. And then they told me all the secrets they couldn't spread over there. They didn't know that when they tell me secrets, they land with everybody.
Yes.
So like I described, my inner life was a museum exhibit, but everybody else's inner life also became museum exhibit as a result.
So true.
When your mother and I went to Israel for the first time in 1968, that was 1 year shortly after the 6-Day War. So we came to the airport, and all the women of the family, the aunts, were all there to receive us and took us for lunch. And we were sitting for lunch, and the subject of the conversation was why my cousin Ruthie could not achieve orgasm with her husband.
Ruthie.
And Mom sat there, she had never experienced anything like that. And that was the high time of Freudianism. So they had opinions that a father was unable to give unqualified love to her daughters. They all three were in therapy. Or a possessive mother who had virtually a lesbian relationship with her daughters. Youth.
What do they? How do they describe her relationship as lesbian?
Well, she, like Daphne and Youth, they were making out all the time.
And how do you
Huh?
how do you define making out?
Making out, they were hugging and kissing, and
Kissing how?
they were very physical.
Well, they were just, mother-daughters
I
can
don't
be very
know.
physical.
I don't know. I just know the outward.
Yeah, I think that you have a unique
And what
perspective.
happened is, she was so emotionally involved with her daughters that they all struggled through practically a lifetime to free themselves from the grip she had over them.
Well, this is a common
And the
occurrence.
reason was because Bram was extremely narcissistic. He reminded me of little Mozart sitting on the knees of the Empress Maria Theresa. He was 3 or 4 years old. He says, "I'm going to marry you," he told the Empress. And then he grew up in this rather ungainly looking adult. And it seemed to me that he was always nostalgic for the time when he was the admired little wunderkind, infant prodigy. Of course, he remained a prodigy to all his, 37 years of life?
37.
Yeah, he died at 37.
Who?
Mozart.
Oh, Mozart. I thought you were talking about Brahms.
No.
That's Brahms' line.
Yeah.
Brahm
Mozart.
was highly respected in the diamond world. He became the honorary chairman of the diamond bourse, and he's the one who was instrumental in moving to Ramat Gan. But Brahm had to be the center of interest or other admiration wherever he was. And he, his daughters loved him, but they couldn't get any real love back. He was incapable of unqualified loving somebody. He always had a girlfriend in Haifa. The first one was Ruth Harris, a dancer. And he went to see his girlfriend every second weekend.
That doesn't sound like a Jewish name.
Huh?
That doesn't sound like a Jewish name.
Ruth Harris? Yeah, of course they were Jewish.
Oh, they were.
That doesn't, I know, that was a professional name.
I see.
She may not have been Jewish for all I know. But Yud packed this little weekend suitcase for him. What had happened, they used to go camping at the Kinneret. And Yud was horny, and she found all kind of men over there that attracted her. So she wanted to play around. So she couldn't do it without Brahm. So she sicked him on different women. Do you like her? Do you like her? And that's the way the thing started. Brahm did not initiate this kind of promiscuous life that they lived. Then Yud became middle-aged and lost her attractiveness, while Brahm remained this handsome guy with one arm that he used to seduce women into his, to become a Flooring Nightingales. Come here, baby, I'll take care of you.
How did he lose the arm?
Huh?
How did he lose?
In a car accident.
Oh, I thought it was in the war.
And he suffered from terrible phantom pains. You know what they are?
Of course. Yes.
And he claimed that the only things that would relieve him was alcohol and women.
He drank a lot?
Well, I don't know if he drank a lot, but he drank enough to help. But it's also a manifestation of his self-centeredness, using that as an excuse. And he had this affair with Shell.
Oh, right. Yes.
And Shell also had an affair with my cousin Maxi Steinlauf. And Maxi Steinlauf was in a way a reincarnation in character of Brahm. He was very tall, very handsome. Women hungered after him, and he slept with lots of them. But he also had a border beyond which his emotions didn't go. And so how did I always have an affair with him? Because he told me about Maxi's emotional impotence. And you don't know these things unless you have a quasi-intimate relationship with somebody. And his wife Sarah, as a young woman, was just exquisite.
Oh yeah, we saw them, 4 years ago in Tel Aviv.
Sarah was a lively redhead who sang and danced. She was the spark of any party he went to.
Yeah.
They had 2 daughters. And she shriveled from lack of love. She aged before her time. And
She seemed pretty lively when we saw her.
Oh yeah, she still is.
Yeah.
She plays the flute in a Baroque ensemble, the recorder.
The recorder. Yeah.
And today she walks with two canes.
She did?
Yeah, she's physically handicapped. But their two daughters too also suffered from lack of spontaneous love on the part of the father. He did love him, but he could not in any way convey it. You have a large family, you find all kinds of things like that. And they were very generous. But the two stingy siblings were my father and Frida. For my father, nothing was more important than money. And my mother said to me that my father suffers from envy. He was a very envious person. She said it about him.
Well, she should know.
Huh?
She should know.
Oh yes, she knew. She was a generous woman. Very, very, very hospitable. But
With her family. Maybe.
With the most malicious mouth of anybody I ever met.
You know, you keep telling me about this generosity, and I didn't see evidence.
No?
No. Oh, my mama.
Give an example of her generosity.
Yeah.
You what?
Give an
example of her generosity.
Give an example of your mother's
Both
generosity.
his parents
Well,
were very generous.
She gave things away freely to people, even that were important to her. When somebody in the family, or even remote relatives, got married, she always had a lot of things to give them.
I see.
And like Abbie Lipschutz and his brother's Nati,
Yeah.
he was called Sahib at that time, from the Shomer Tzai, they called him Sahib. They were in the American Army,
Right.
but my mother's house was like a home for them.
Ah.
They called her the Schwieger, the mother-in-law. And she was, she literally was the hearth, Hearth,
Hearth.
yeah, for those two boys. They loved coming there, and they were not the only ones.
I never knew this. Who was Mordechai?
Hmm?
Who was Mordechai?
My father,
His father.
Your father was Mordechai.
Mordechai Tzvi,
And Max was an...
Marcus Hirsch in English, Mordechai Tzvi. I discovered
Hence
that.
the nickname Max.
I discovered that
Max.
when I went with my father to the old Jewish cemetery on Mount Sophia in Jerusalem. You have that story. I was 84 years old, and he clambered and he found the grave of his grandfather, etc. And there were all other relatives buried close by, and one was called Mordechai. So that's where he got his name from.
His grandfather?
No.
No.
He found his grandfather's grave.
And his grandfather's name?
I don't know what it was.
Oh.
You just saw a grave next to it, Mordecai.
And the sisters of the grandfather were buried right next to him.
So he wasn't called Max until he came to the United States.
What was that?
His nickname, Max, didn't occur until he came to America.
He was called Max in Holland also.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He never used his Jewish name,
Never.
except on official occasions.
I see.
Like when his birth he was buried as Mordechai Tzvi Lipschutz, Ben Reb Chaim Simon Lipschutz, and
Spell Svi?
Huh?
Spell Svi. Mordechai Svi?
Mordechai is
I know, but how do you spell the middle name?
Tzvi. Mordechai Tzvi was second name. Tzvi is like a not a doe. What do you call the male?
A buck?
All these wild deer, a male deer.
A
Tzvi is a male deer.
buck or a stud?
Hey, what?
A buck or a stud? Well, spell the name.
Tzvi.
Yeah,
Well, in Hebrew is Tzadik Beit Yud.
that's completely unuseful.
In English is ZVI
Thank you.
or TZVI.
Okay. I never knew that one.
No, I knew that was his name, but I never knew where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Stag.
Stag.
Dad?
No, STAG for the male deer. Stag.
A stag.
Yeah, Lenny
Yes.
remembered.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lenny.
My big contribution to the conversation. Stag.
My official name is Abraham.
Yes.
Abraham Lipschutz.
Avraham. Uh-huh.
So Bram also was Abraham Lipschutz.
Yeah. But you became Abbie and he became Bram.
In Holland, that's a male name.
Yeah.
But they didn't give you a middle name.
No, why didn't you have a middle name?
I was a deprived child.
Yeah, so sorry.
Abraham Lipschutz.
Did your sisters have middle names?
Huh?
Do your sisters have middle names?
Yeah.
Interesting. They forgot. They were young. They were, yeah, no
I think
kidding.
Miriam was called Miriam Amalia.
Hmm.
That's pretty.
And Johnji is called Jonathan Dale.
Yes.
And you know where it comes from?
A baseball player?
That Jackie Robinson was at bat, and Dale Mitchell was in the batter circle, waiting for his turn.
And why didn't you name him Jackie?
I don't know.
That's such a 50s story
Ronnie
that you were in the waiting
Ronnie's
room.
called Ronnie Dan Lipschutz.
And what is Dan from? See, I thought Dale was Ronnie's middle name.
What?
I thought Dale was Ronnie's middle name. No?
No, he's Dan.
And, okay, and where's
I don't
where's
know.
that from?
I don't remember. And Tammy was
Lynn.
Tamara Lynn Lipschutz.
And what's the Lynn from? It just sounded
Well,
good?
Lynn, I think it must have come from Vera Lynn.
Who's that?
Vera Lynn was an actress, an English actress, and a singer who was very famous because she had this lock of hair over her eye.
I see. So random.
And so Tammy is Tamara Lynn, and Johnji is Jonathan Dale, and Ronnie is Ronnie Dan, and you are
Gabrielle Hitler.
Gabrielle what?
Gabrielle.
Hitler.
Hitler.
Remember, I was named after Adolf. My mother's Uncle Adolf.
Yeah. So what was his second name? What is his?
Adana.
Adana, yes. Adana. Adana is a place on the Mediterranean in Turkey.
It's in Turkey. Yeah,
Eastern Turkey.
I had a classmate in high school who was Turkish, and she knew the town.
I see. Yeah, Adana is a well-known town.
Uh-huh.
I think it is in the Kurdish part of Turkey.
Really?
Yeah.
The eastern part is the Kurdish part? I have to look at the map.
Well, there's been a rebellion there by
Oh, yeah.
the Kurds. The Kurds, the minimum they want is to be allowed to teach the schools in Kurdish. And the central government prohibits it. And for a while the speaking of Kurdish was prohibited. It's amazing how language in many instances is the spark of rebellion, like in the Basque country in Spain.
What is their language?
Basque,
And what does it sound like? Or what's it?
not like anything.
No?
They do not know the origin of Basque.
I think I heard this.
There's a remote connection with Caucasian
Wow.
and with Sanskrit.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
But for instance, in Brittany, in France, they speak Breton, which is closely related to Welsh. The Bretons and the Welsh understand each other.
Really?
Yeah.
But you don't understand Fries.
Greek,
Fries from Friesland.
Fries no.
They're not related? Dutch and Fries?
Fries is related more closely to Scotch
Wow.
than anything. You know, Fries is spoken in Friesland and part of Ostfriesland in Germany. And Albert, you know, was evacuated to Friesland.
Oh, right.
And
So
he was born in 1940.
Yeah.
He was evacuated to Friesland. He came back, he spoke nothing but Fries.
Well, does he still understand it?
Yes,
Can he speak it?
I don't know.
Probably not. And is it a dying language?
No,
No.
no,
That's interesting.
no, the Frisians are very proud of the language.
Yeah.
And of course Holland has no objection to that. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as trying to suppress the language. But under Franco, Basque for the Spaniards was poison.
You know, I don't think much has changed.
That what?
Not much has changed.
Oh, well, today,
In regards to the
no,
Basque.
Today Basque is freely spoken.
Well, they're trying to kill them.
Now, you have an ETA, which is a movement, an armed movement
Yeah.
that wants to separate
Yeah.
the Basque country from Spain.
And they're pretty serious about it.
Well, they have lost a lot of power and influence. Well, for a while there was even a Catalan separatist movement. But Catalonia they never suppressed the language there.
What is it related to?
To Provençal Spanish, French. Well, we're digressing into all kind of fields.
No matter, it's all interesting.
Huh?
No matter,
No matter?
it's all a good story. I should have gotten it while I had the chance.
So, see, Barcelona is not a Spanish-looking city. Barcelona just looks like an important commercial European place.
I had such a negative experience in Spain that I can't shake it. I really disliked it, where I was.
Were you in Barcelona?
I went to Barcelona and I didn't. Yeah, Barcelona was beautiful. I was in Sevilla, which was awful.
I never liked Sevilla.
No,
Never liked Sevilla.
not much to like.
Sevilla, you know, is that legendary city from Carmen.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so I expected that it would be really gypsy-like, but no, Sevilla is just a large industrial noisy city.
Yeah, flat. It was like Houston. It was so hot too. And you know what was so awful was it was full of Franco supporters. These latent Franco supporters. The older population. At least that's what I got. That's what people were telling me.
What did you get?
They were Franco supporters.
They were?
Still. They were still upset about the war.
Yeah, that's surprising because no, actually, Garcia Lorca.
Could I have some
Garcia
of that?
Lorca
Thank you.
was killed in not in
Just a
Sevilla,
little bit. That's good. Thank you, sweetheart.
in Andalusia.
Uh-huh.
He was killed not because he was a supporter of the Republic, but because he was gay.
I didn't know this. I didn't know a lot.
Now, I loved, of all of Andalusia, Cordoba is my favorite place. Have you been in Cordoba?
Yeah, I think we went just very
Cordoba is
briefly.
beautiful. You have these,
Coastal.
especially in the Juderia, the Jewish quarter,
Yes.
where you have these yards with flowers and the houses built around them.
The courtyard. They're very tiny little alleyways, right?
And then the interesting is that the most
Excuse me.
Spanish-looking places are in Morocco.
Hmm.
There's two places there that's really Spanish-looking. No, I like Spain. I like Spain a great deal. I like the people of Spain.
Yeah. In Madrid, when we went to Madrid, they were so different. Really, every part. I guess this is true in any country, but every section has its culture. And Madrid was so open compared to Sevilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. And easy to understand. It was just like going on a vacation. Because Sevilla, they had that stupid lisp and dropped every ending.
Where did you have the lisp?
In Sevilla.
Sevilla.
It's probably more working class.
Well, you had a very bad
bourgeoisie and
You're right.
the bourgeois.
I guess that's
You had a-
my people.
Your people.
You had a bad experience. You were forced to join that group. It's
That woman I lived with was so horrible.
the woman.
I
Yeah.
think she colored your entire experience.
Oh, certainly she did.
Yeah, was that the,
Yeah.
Had you been with a really great family, they took
Sure.
you around, showed you people,
Oh, yeah.
introduced you, and
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah.
would have had a completely different experience.
Yeah.
was that what triggered your anorexia?
It didn't help. Who's to say?
Well, there was an article in New York Science Times this past week, I should have brought along, about the anorexic in the teenagers. 1/3 die,
1/3?
1/3 die,
Jesus.
1/3 recover partially but fight with it
Yeah.
the rest of their life,
Yeah.
and 1/3 apparently do okay.
Mhm.
But it's very rare, they said in the article, for somebody who has gone through anorexia to never, what would I call the craving for the time. They watch their weight and all that. You don't have that at all.
No.
No.
You
You're a remarkable case of total recovery.
Yes. But it's also common for people who've had anorexia to experience a spectrum of eating disorders. It's not relegated to this one little faction. And I think that people are, they're unclear on that. That the boundaries are fuzzy. So even if someone was anorexic, it doesn't mean that they were also, not an overeater at one time or a bulimic at one time. They go through all of them. So,
I once asked you, what was a factor in your recovery? You said because you saw what it was doing to me.
oh, absolutely, guilt was the driving factor in my eating again. It didn't mean it was the driving factor of my recovery.
Yeah.
Because I would not say that I recovered for a long time, but it got me out of the anorexic phase.
Mm-hmm. So it's important to have an accepting father.
Or one that's a really good guilt tripper in a,
Well,
in a casual
I
way.
remember that in one attack of anger I had against you, I said the girls of Kolkata are not anorexic.
I remember.
You remember that?
Yeah.
The girls of
At the time. Well, it depends on which caste. Right? Maybe the higher castes were.
Well, I remember I took you to California. We stayed with Lupita.
I was remembering this recently because of the royal wedding. Oh, wait a minute. That's not true because Charles and Diana married in '81. But I remember watching the wedding on TV at Lupita's house.
Yeah. Now, all I remember from that time is that at Lupita's house you started eating.
Oh yeah.
And you came back and you were kind of overweight.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's
Were you ever bulimic?
yeah.
You were.
Yeah. It's hard to find a balance. You know, the pendulum swings
Yeah.
wildly.
How long did that last?
A long time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Were you completely free from that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting how you really talked about it.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but you did eventually, and how you became a therapist for other anorexics.
Yeah. Well, you know, develop a unique understanding.
And let me tell you something that may surprise you. I think this capacity of empathy is inherited from your grandmother,
Which grandmother?
Paula, my mother.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she was a good listener, wasn't she?
She was what?
She was a good listener.
Yes, she was.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean she wasn't full of judgment.
No, they're not. They're not mutually exclusive. I liked my mother. I didn't love her, but I liked my mother.
Yeah, you appreciated her. You know, I think that she would listen in order to get more information.
And then to
It was useful.
to paint whatever she had to paint in black.
What? Say that again?
She got information about the person. She always found something to paint that person black. Her capacity for malice, and I don't think it was truly felt malice. It was just an ability of her to exert the little power she had.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, she had some resentment in life.
Well, she was really shortchanged.
No kidding.
She grew up many years in Vienna, and she wanted to become a medical professional, even become a doctor. She never got a chance. At age 13, she was sent to Holland to take care of her father.
13. Mm-hmm.
He had been called up to the Austro-Hungarian army, and he fled to Holland. You know, the famous story is that many of the Jewish recruits were checked for hemorrhoids, so they stuck money in their ass, and the examiner took that and said hemorrhoids, and he wasn't accepted for the army. So this one guy stuck money in his ass. The doctor looked at him. He said hemorrhoids, but not enough.
Said what?
Hemorrhoids, but not enough.
The money he had put in his ass was insufficient.
Those are supposed to separate?
No, they broke.
Oh, no.
They broke.
Oh. Now you have a telescope, too.
And you know, Foggy, Frank was my roommate in Tel Aviv for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He grew up in Vienna, although he was from Bessarabia.
Where?
Bessarabia.
Where's that?
That was part of Romania, but today is Moldava.
Bessarabia?
Bessarabia it's called.
Wow.
The capital was Kishinev, where they had this terrible pogrom in 1905.
Wow.
His parents were from Odessa in Russia.
So he's Romanian, sort of.
Bessarabia was part of Romania.
And what did they speak?
They speak Moldavian.
Wow.
It's kind of a Ukrainian
Yeah.
dialect. And the Soviet Union took that away from Romania.
Uh-huh.
And today it's Moldava, and Moldava is the basket case of Europe. Poverty stricken.
I don't know. I know nothing about
Anyway,
Moldava.
that's where he was born. And he came to Vienna rather young. and he absorbed that whole decadent Viennese culture. He taught me a number of limericks in Viennese German about the filthiest things that I know, filthier than the Dutch. But they're wonderful. Frau Wirtin hatte einen Sohn, der konnte es bald im Anfang schon. So kam er aus die Spalte, der Dritte ist und vögelte die Alte. Frau Wirtin had a son. He could do it immediately. Barely did he come out of the split, when he turned over and scored the old one.
God.
Frau Wirtin hatte einen Schmied, der hat ein vierkantiges Glied. Doch Liebe macht erfinderisch, da legt es an Amboss hin und feilte es zylinderisch.
It sounds bad, even.
Frau Wirtin had a smith that had a square penis. But love makes inventive. He put it on the, what do you call it, where you hammer iron?
Oh, Lenny,
What's that called?
what's that word?
What?
The forge.
A forge, thank
He
you.
put it on the forge and filed it cylindrical. Then he had stories out of, forgot what the character is, and he's in a urinal, and the guy next to him, and he turns to him and says, "You're from Przemysl, are you?" He said, "How did you guess?" He said, "Well, I recognize the cut of the Przemysl moil." You know what the moil is.
Yeah.
He said, "And furthermore, you're pissing on my shoes." He was full of stories like that.
Furthermore.
And recently, first last time I saw him, I quoted some of those to him. He doesn't remember them.
No.
I am the carrier of dirty Viennese culture.
Dirty culture. Okay, yeah, so say the Dutch tongue twisters that you were reciting in Roxy's class yesterday.
Yeah.
Say some of those.
Which one?
The Dutch tongue twisters that you recited yesterday.
Yes. I had him try and repeat Scheveningen and Oegstgeest. And then I quoted this Dutch sentence, Mom and I made up. De schapenscheerster zat op het groene gras van de watergraafsmeer haar afschuwelijke schapen te aaien en op buien te wachten. They couldn't believe their ears. So what does it mean? The female sheep shearer sat on the green grass of the Watergraafsmeer, which is a polder in Amsterdam.
Which is a what?
A polder.
Polder. What's a polder?
A polder is a piece of below sea level land that have been diked around and dried up. Like where we lived in Amsterdam.
Isn't that the whole country?
No, it was a part of the country.
The whole country's a polder.
Yes, the western part probably is most of it, and also the northern part, like Friesland and Groningen. But what they did in this, what used to be the Zuiderzee, they diked certain parts, then dried it up, and created new land. And it's now become the IJsselmeer. It used to be a saltwater inlet of the North Sea, but now it's a freshwater lake.
How do they keep the water, the drinking water, from being brackish?
They built a dike across the Afsluitdijk between, in the northern part, 18 miles long, between the Zuiderzee and the North Sea.
Oh.
And so they control whatever water can come in, but most of the water comes from the rivers. So over the years it's turned into fresh water.
See. And what does Zouder mean?
Huh?
What does Zouder mean?
Zuiderzee?
Yeah.
The South Sea.
South Sea, as
Yeah. Now it's at IJsselmeer. IJssel is one of the rivers and tributary of the Rhine that goes north
Oh,
from Arnhem and empties into the IJsselmeer.
okay.
And instead of saltwater fish, they now have a large eel industry.
Like a hatchery.
No, it's not a hatchery. They're just natural.
They came there on their own?
Yeah, they did.
From the sea? Or from the sea?
No, they from the rivers.
They're freshwater eel.
Freshwater eel.
But in the water is fresh
Yeah.
there.
And
don't-
the boats, the eel boats, are beautiful. They look like Picasso etchings.
Okay, and how did the eel stop? They don't go into the ocean?
They don't know what?
The eel don't go with the current into the ocean?
No.
Oh, because it's diked off.
Yeah, it's backed off.
Okay.
They don't let any salt water in there.
No. And are they going to be able to keep that up with the rising sea level?
Unless you have a hurricane that will destroy the dike.
Well, the sea levels are going to rise significantly.
Well, the thing is that actually the Zuiderzee didn't exist until the 13th century, when a storm broke through and created that tributary sea there, the Zuiderzee.
Uh-huh. That was a big storm.
Yeah. Well, they have pretty much built all kinds of safety measures that protects. You have the dunes in North Holland all the way down to Scheveningen. And then in the mouth, in the delta of the Scheldt-Rhine River, where they had floods that inundated all the islands of Zeeland, they built what is reputedly the largest engineering feat in the world. They built movable, what do you call it, the things that you can raise and lower.
Dams?
They're not dams, they're electronically controlled. So when there's a flood, they can basically
Dikes.
close up. They're not dikes, no.
Like in New Orleans, you mean?
No, New Orleans is chicken shit compared to that.
Well, sure. But the levee? It's not a levee.
No, they're the electronic gates that they can raise and lower.
It's a dam.
No, it's not a dam. There's a
They're
name
called,
for it.
Well, dams can be
Yeah,
opened.
they have a name. It's a turbine station. It's a turbine station, and the turbine turns and lowers and raises the.
In any case, they've
Is
had
it the same technology they use for the canals in Panama?
Big one?
Is that the same technology that they use for the canals in Panama? The locks?
Well, it's
The locks?
Panama. They have locks where they raise and
Yeah.
lower the level to let the ships through.
But this is
there, no.
different.
Those are, and these are there especially for storm surges.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. I kind of know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name or the example.
Okay, when we in the war, we were moved to Walcheren, which is the main island of Zeeland, the southern province. It was completely flooded,
Yeah.
and we were in the dunes just above the coast, so that those were the only parts that were above water.
How,
And a number of supply ships had foundered for mines, and the cans of reinforced milk came ashore,
oh,
and somebody's coming.
somebody's coming.
Huh?
Lenny, somebody's here. Oh, it's our neighbors across the street.
Oh,
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, hi. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm going to do a plumbing problem, so I'm
What are you having?
we have a cheap plumber.
so Hans van Dam started making pancakes, and we blew up like that. We became like moons.
Because it was evaporated milk.
It was evaporated. It was reinforced also. It was really like heavy cream.
Cream,
really.
yeah.
And so I still have pictures. We look like,
Bloated.
yes. And then we went into action. In 2 weeks we lost all the weight.
Mm.
So, you know, by the time the war was over, you've seen these pictures of me. I was skinny.
Yeah, soldiers tend to be.
Huh?
Soldiers
Yeah.
tend to be.
I must have lost 30, 40 pounds from
Wow.
the high point.
From the milk time?
Yes?
Yeah. Wow. You know what I was remembering yesterday? I was thinking about that time when you discovered your ear horn. Remember when you had the ear horn and you loved it? You thought it was the greatest thing ever, and you were you had it all the time stuck in your ear. And then anyone who tried to have a conversation with you, you would stick. All you could see was this bowl of the ear horn right in your face.
His master's voice.
His master's voice. Well, that was a good long story. Although there were no Yiddish expressions in there. Remember, that was the impetus for starting this. You said you were going to teach us some Yiddish expressions.
Well, I'm just waiting for Lynn to come in so we
Okay.
can...
Okay. I have to take a bathroom break.